We had a call yesterday where one of our agents joked of like, I just need the forcing function of my wife clicking the dial button and throwing me the phone.
Right.
It's like grenade.
Hello and welcome to episode 15 of the Life Insurance Academy podcast. I'm your host, Austin Lopes-Silvero, and I'm here with Chris Ball, Zach McElwain, and Roger Short. The LIA podcast takes you into the conversations of top producing life insurance agents so that you can level up your business. For episode notes and resources, visit liapodcast.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Life Insurer Acad. We're also excited to offer text notifications for episode releases and resources that will help you in your business. All you have to do is send the letters LIA to the number 82149. That's 82149 and a message with the letters LIA. In today's episode, we continue in our series on making the transition from face-to-face sales to selling over the phone. Now, previously, we've talked about the techniques and tips to make you successful in telesales, but there's also some things that can lead to failure in this approach. Today, we're discussing one of the biggest reasons people fail during this transition, and it's probably not what you think. Guys, what is the primary reason people fail when selling over the phone?
Austin, I believe the number one reason why people are failing in telesales is simply because they're afraid. And I think fear can almost freeze us in position. I think, we probably heard about fight or flight, that our instincts cause us to run, or our instincts cause us to lean in and fight somebody or fight something that appears to be a threat to us. But I think there's another response, and the other response is to be frozen in place.
Chris, I think it's that moment right before that flight or fight, right? Like the moment before you decide to run or decide, to put your dukes up and let's do this. It's that is the freeze moment. And really, before you even said this, I never really thought about it, but I feel like that's what everybody's stuck in right now.
That slow motion image in the movie that just keeps you right there, and you haven't ran toward and you haven't run away, and the audience is waiting to see which one you're going to choose.
Welcome to Telesales, field agent. Now, guys, you all are the leaders. You're on a podcast. You're host here. You're the experts. So surely you all haven't experienced this fear.
Yeah, I don't know if that's so true, Austin. I'm raising my hand. I'm with everybody else. I've been afraid. Matter of fact, I remember the first conversations that Roger had with me on commission sales, and this idea of removing the ceiling and the opportunity, and not quite understanding that if you're going to remove a ceiling of possibility, then to fully be able to do that, you have to remove the floor as well. And that I was excited about removing the ceiling, but I was scared to death of removing the floor. But, it took me a while to process and learn a couple of things about myself. One, that I was sick of people making decisions for me in the jobs that I had before, where they were controlling my destiny. And one thing that I wasn't aware of that was happening was I was making excuses when it didn't work out. Like, well, it was because this happened, the market changed, or it was because they didn't like me, or it was because of this or that, or whatever reason. It was really easy to make an excuse. And after a while, it became very attractive to me to want to remove all the excuses. And so, yeah, man, I was frozen. I was scared as heck jumping into this. But over time, I'm just saying personally, over time, I started to learn that the best things happen when I'm doing something that I'm scared of. The best things. And it became almost like a I felt my personal growth stall when I wasn't leaning into that. We talk about comfort zone, but when I wasn't leaning into the edges of the barrier or the thing that was making me afraid. So yeah, man, I'm right there with everybody else. This is a new paradigm, and I felt those rumblings in my tum tum, and I'm with everybody else on that. But I appreciate the opportunity a lot.
Chris, I think fear is just a symptom of growth, because anytime in your life, when change is coming, change is growth. Change is moving in a different direction, if it's mentally, if it's physically, whatever it is, and it's relative to where you came from. Like your previous career, Chris, you had a floor, right? It was standing there and it was solid. So now removing that causes that fear, causes that growth, but also allows you to reach your potential. It allows you to continue to expand that potential even farther than you thought it was before. And when we're coming into this business of life insurance, no matter if we're in telesales, no matter if you're in, going home to home, you become comfortable with that. And we all may look back, because we're coming from, final expense sales of mainly, and going to see clients in their home where we can connect with them and really develop a relationship with our clients because we care, to now moving to the phone. Well, it's different. It's not what we're used to. But at the end of this, or learning this, or going through this growth segment for us personally and our business, it's going to make every single one of us better, sharper, and more equipped to face anything in the future. And we will understand our clients on a deeper level, because this is a different segment essentially than we serve now. So I think, it is a very good thing, but good doesn't always mean comfortable. It doesn't mean we initially want it. Long term, we're all going to be happy that we developed and we've went through this. But right now, it doesn't feel that good. It's just like lifting weights. Anybody started workout plans or Insanity or P90X? Like that first week is terrible. Like you're debating with every single push-up. This is my last one. I'm quitting. This isn't for me. And you wake up next day and your abs are screaming, and you're like, oh, my body feels like it's ripped in half. I think I actually did something wrong. But after you do that for 2 or 3 weeks,
that sounds interesting.
That
Tell
becomes
me more.
the norm. That becomes the norm, right? Then you start to see those results later. Nobody does 8 push-ups and all of a sudden you have big biceps.
It's like you can't. You wake up the next day and you wonder why you can't sit down properly, and that's not right.
What are some things that you're hearing from agents, as they get started in this?
Interestingly, what happens? There's 2 things, and again, it goes back to this fight or flight. There's a pause, and then they either lean in all the way and they're over communicating, they're asking tons of questions, or they go ghost, and they're pulling back, they're receding, they're retreating. They don't feel like they're running, but they're stepping backwards quietly so nobody notices, because it's more comfortable to be behind someone when the crowd is in place rather than being out in front, which feels like exposure and I don't know what I'm doing. So one of 2 things happens. People that are leaning in, asking questions, are mixing it up. They're willing to put themselves out there, and they're taking steps to learn, to push through some barriers, to push through some paradigms that they've never had to address before, some fears, to take that first step, to go parachuting, all that thing that most people in their life are afraid of, and all of a sudden you're standing on the edge of the plane. Like, people are running to the back of the plane as far away from the door as they can, and other people are like, let's do it. and the coaches are like, let's just do this properly. Okay, there's a process and we're all going to have fun. And so there's those 2 responses. The ones that are leaning in are going to figure some stuff out, and the ones that are hiding in the back, unless they start to take action to overcome their fear, and it's the only thing that will overcome their fear is action. unless they start to take action, they will stay there and they will find themselves out of the business.
Funny thing about that, Rogers, is they have to take action at some point anyways. Like they can only pause for so long, and some people are so tough that they want to stay paused and suck away their savings, suck away every mental juice they possibly have before they take action, which doesn't make any sense, because at some point, no matter who you are, no matter what you have or the support you have, at some point you're going to have to take action, even if it's seeking another job, if it's getting into a different industry, or if it's finally, deciding, all right, I have to make phone calls. I have no other choice. My family's depending on me. My loved ones are depending on me. I have to adapt.
It's interesting because when we hear that sales are up at life insurance companies and they're processing more business, like they've had increases, record months in this past 4 weeks, and yet some people are pulling back and their sales have gone through the floor. It's those two things are like dichotomies, paradoxes that don't align. And so an agent that feels unsure is running to the back of the plane instead of toward the door. That person is questioning whether that can possibly be true, that sales are up. But we know that sales are up, right? So if sales are up and companies are having record months, processing more business than ever, what has happened? The only thing that has happened is how products and services are being delivered. It's a market shift. It's an economic shift. It's a paradigm that happened in a short period of time, very quickly. And that causes unsettledness, anxiousness, anxiety, fear, people trying to find their footing. But the market has shifted. It doesn't mean the market has gone away. In fact, the opportunity has increased. And so it's up to us to navigate that gauntlet and step into some new paradigms and learn some new things. So I think the lesson here is that that pause moment, the fear, that moment between fear or flight, or a fight or flight, is a decision moment. Don't stay in it too long, or you will not survive.
I know personally, I am a processor. So I like to have a lot of information. You are too.
Oh yeah.
I'm a weird dichotomy of I'm a processor, but at the same time I am a risk taker. So I like to have all this information, but I am drawn to the risk or the challenge. Now saying that, there is a thing that happens that I think we have to pay attention to. Roger, you talked about taking action. I think that some people. You talked about the people who stand on the edge and they're saying, come on, let's do it. They're hyping up. But part of the hyping up is they're trying to hype themselves up.
They're trying to hype themselves up to overcome their own fear.
Yeah, to make it happen, which is great, which is a good maybe solution in a way. But the one thing I try to pay attention to personally, because I know my own tendencies, is I can almost inoculate myself to action by keeping... I'll find a way to do just enough to get into the action, and then okay, I did it, guys. I made my 3 calls, and that's it for today. Tomorrow I'm going to make 3 more calls, and it's almost like I'm building an immunity to action, like it's an allergy shot, and that's almost worse than running. It just stalls you out in the long run.
Chris, I remember a time when you and our host Austin went and you did some rock climbing.
Yeah.
What was that about, and how does that relate to what's going on right now?
What did you experience, Austin? You can share a little bit here.
Well, Chris was trying to learn how to do telesales and he didn't have enough service. So I said, Chris, the only way for you to get service is for us to climb this mountain. And you'll get signal up there, and you can make the calls to clients.
Thank you, buddy. And where would I be without you?
Let us in on what happened there and what you went through emotionally, Chris, because that was a learning point for you. You actually did that to push yourself.
Right. Yeah. Well, we were doing a part of our conference, and the challenge was this very conversation, and I didn't want to do something where I was asking people to take a risk or do something they were afraid of if I wasn't willing to do it myself. And I had, it's not the same as far as like knocking on a door or selling something. I know my deep personal fears, and one is heights. I'm not a fan of heights, so I wanted to challenge myself and asked Austin if he had some ideas, and he took me to I guess it's a torture chamber of it's fear challenging. I don't know
Via Ferrata. It's a horizontal
Latin
rock
name
climbing.
for bring an extra
Horizontal
pair of
rock
pants.
climbing.
Via Ferrata, yeah.
Yeah, the Via Ferrata, is that how, am I saying it correctly?
Yeah.
Yep.
So essentially, you have rebar sometimes.
Yeah.
I want Chris to make sure I'm validating his fears.
Yes.
Sometimes you have rebar for your hands and feet. Then you have a safety cable that you're attached via harness to.
Correct.
If you're an idiot, you could unattach yourself from the safety cable. But they have a lot of safety recommendations put in place for you not to do that. But the first step is you have to go up to where the rock climbing is, and that first climb, and that was
doozy,
huge
man.
for you.
Yeah, that was
It's not
an
horizontal, is
awakening.
it?
No, it's not. It's not. There's a lot of vertical.
A lot of vertical, yes.
And it was funny when we were talking about this because Roger's like, well, you're attached to like safety equipment. Yeah, you're right. You are, but like your brain doesn't allow you to think that way when you have a specific fear. Like if you're scared of tigers and you get in the cage with a tiger with a muzzle on and he's chained to the wall, you're still going to freak out. So we went out and we climbed
Carol
it, and it was there was a point going up that first vertical that I think it was the closest I've gotten to throwing up when I wasn't sick. Like it was mom's spaghetti, man. It was like I had to come back down. I couldn't breathe, and Austin was up there cheerleading me and challenging me, and we made it through it. But man, that was a massive growth experience for me, and who knows what that will lead to. I don't even want to think about that.
I do think that like some agents have that fear moment about the phone. Like I do think that is a very actual fear that's happening. Some agents do feel that for the door. Some agents feel that towards talking to leads that, they're not confident in, right? Like I think this fear that you feel for heights is very real to some people for the phone.
I would agree. I agree 100%, man. And this is a weird time because I would say we are in an environment of fear. And if you are caught up in the washing machine news cycle, man, you need to take a breather. Like, please step back, because you are not going to hear anything good. There are not kittens getting out of trees right now. Like, it's all it does is reinforce questions that you don't have answers to and you have no control over. Like, when are we going to be unquarantined? When is this going to lift? Soon? We don't know. How am I going to pay my bills? How's this going to happen? What's going to happen when mortgages due? Like, people have those questions. So it's not just tied to the activity. We're in an environment that is requiring uncommon bravery, for people personally. I think it's requiring it.
I know that this fear affects a lot of us and affects a lot of things that we do that hold us back. Isolation is probably the biggest part for me that I see that happens, but I'm sure it impacts a lot of other things as well. What do you guys think?
I mean, fear is selfish. Fear is that moment that allows you to think about yourself only, and you're not worried about your family. You're not worried about your kids. You're not worried about your coworkers or people that depend on you, or your team, or your downline, or whatever. You think about yourself, and that's crazy to me, because like I'm naturally like a giving type of person. I feed off of. I love Christmas. I love seeing people's faces when I get them gifts. Not that they ask for, but I know they would like. Like, I enjoy that, and the the moment, like that's the only thing that propels me through when fear strikes me, is putting those other people first, putting the people that depend on me or that are counting on me or looking up to me to show them how to get out of their fear. That's what pulls me out of my fear, because I don't have time for that.
I think we all process that differently. Every one of us, based on our personalities, our nature, our character. And for some of us, we clearly know that people are responsible. We're responsible for other people. We know that other people are depending on us. We know that other people are looking to us. But like you said, when that fear kicks in, man, it's like, I can't move forward. And it impacts so many things.
So beyond even getting started and picking up the phone, what are some other areas where you'll see fear in this process?
I think it impacts us in so many ways, specifically to life agents transitioning from field sales, face-to-face sales, to telephone sales or virtual sales. It's gonna impact things like leads. Do I invest in leads? Should I spend money right now, or should I save? Should I conserve? Right? It's that Robert Kiyosaki thing. When that helicopter stalls out, you got to point the nose of that helicopter at the ocean, and it's the very thing that every fiber in your body is screaming. I think we covered this on another podcast, but it's something that every fiber in your body is screaming not to do. You're trying to get altitude. The only way to save yourself is to point the nose at the ocean and gain speed to restart the engines. Well, when agents are looking at leads and buying leads, I don't know if this can work, so I don't want to buy leads. So they shut off their lead flow, which impacts their activity. So they don't do anything because I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to navigate this space of creating a virtual call, or how do I sell? The carriers that I used to have are not really friendly to telesales. It affects their activity. They don't know how to close because they're not there in person to see the people's body language. I mean, and then you could even get a sale, and then you don't want to follow up because you're afraid they're going to cancel. Like it's going to trickle out and impact all these other areas, and it is an avalanche, one thing on top of the other, creating this snowball effect of failure because of this word called fear.
I think the leads conversation is a good symptom of where you are at. You might be saying, man, I don't even know how to quantify this, or how to tell if I'm freaking out, or if there is a fear factor here for me. If you're looking at leads and you're questioning how much does it cost versus how much am I investing, if it's cost versus investment and you're thinking cost, then as Jeff Foxworthy might say, you might be afraid.
It's almost like a forcing function, Chris, because with getting leads, or if you're on a reoccurring lead warrior, or if you have leads that are coming in, or wherever you're getting your leads, having them should force you to make phone calls, should force you to contact those clients. And those clients have a heightened urgency. And what I've found has definitely shocked me from my expectations with, clients really needing and wanting coverage more than in the past, right? Because of what's going on. Like you said, Roger, the insurance companies are up 20 to 25% as far as that goes. So one thing that will allow you to just lean back and start flipping through Netflix is to stop your leads. And you don't have that forcing function anymore, and you're like, oh, well, I don't really have to do this. And if you put that floor there, and as soon as you put that floor back, your ceiling closes in on you really quick.
Well, it also, Zach, it makes you feel like you're doing the responsible thing by conserving your funds. So I'm going to conserve my funds. So in order to conserve my funds, I'm going to stop spending money on leads, which is a cost, which is an expense. And the minute you're doing that, you're justifying it, saying, well, I'm being responsible. I'll try to sell some of my old clients only. I'll keep calling through my book of business, right? At some point, your book of business, I saw a post the other day, like sometimes we're trying to resurrect some of these things, and we just need to let it lay, and we need to lean into new people who are reaching out for help. And but you're telling yourself, I'm doing the responsible thing, so I'm going to conserve, And then, like you said, it allows you to remove the forcing function, and then you don't have the obligation to call because there's no new leads coming in that you're investing in that are waiting for you to call them. It allows you to go to the back of the plane and feel like you're doing the responsible thing because you don't need to be up at the front because you don't have a parachute on.
Well, let's be clear. If you don't have a parachute on, you shouldn't be at the front of the plane. Come on, guys.
Well, that person's flying the plane, I think.
That's right.
So let's dive into a few of those. Activity, right? Where does fear pop up in activity?
It paralyzes you. I mean, you have enough self-discipline in what you're doing to walk to your home office or walk to your home desk, and then you sit there, but then that's probably the extent of it. Then one thing after another pops in your head and is excuses for you to not move, to not pick up that phone. Like that phone is glued to the table and it just will not come up. And you find reasons. I mean, you just get stuck. You just get stuck there.
I think for the processors, they keep trying to do things that they tell themselves are going to help them with the activity because they're trying to get control of their new environment. So I need this, I need that. Oh, I don't have this, so now I need to figure out that. I need to rearrange this. I need to go back and get all my old files. And before you know it, it's 4:30 and someone's saying, hey, when are we eating dinner? Okay, I'll get back to this tomorrow. And like you can keep processing and Austin, am I relating to you? You're smiling because Chris has got the big smile. Yeah. Again, the two biggest processors probably on this podcast. Right? I need to have control of my environment before I can move forward. Instead,
I have to master a script.
Yeah, I have to know learn all these things first before I take a step. When some of the other people are saying, let's just run and we'll figure it out as we go. And the processors are back there going, I can't do that. I need to know how to run. And it's this weird place, man. Austin, it's a weird place.
So like we did escape rooms as a team. My first time doing an escape room was torture for me because they throw you in there and they don't tell you anything. They just say, get out. And you're like, okay, what am I looking for? And they don't tell you.
It is, and that is a good analogy, Austin, because when you're thrown in there, I know there are people who get in those moments and they're thinking, well, what's first? What if we find something that isn't the first thing? And then what does that do? Like, does this mess this whole thing up? Like, and they're standing in the middle of the room while Roger's throwing stuff, like just flipping, like everything he can find, like ripping.
And then the game master's like, no, leave that window.
Part of the game.
That window is not a part. It's just a window. Don't smash it out.
There's something behind this frame. I see it. Yeah, it's this moment though where you have to say, okay, there is a lack of control, but what I can control is doing something, the next thing, and keep moving forward.
It is, man. It's just those baby steps of pick up the phone, dial the number, get a yes or no, hang up, pick up the phone.
We had a call yesterday where one of our agents joked of like, I just need the forcing function of my wife clicking the dial button and throwing me the phone.
Right.
It's like, grenade.
I'll tell you, we're in a really unique situation right now with this COVID-19 because a lot of it is bringing families closer together. So like kids that were off to college that maybe didn't have a ton of time to spend with their father or their mother or whoever, now that is there, that they are available, they're at home, they're not working, they're not doing anything, they're playing board games, they're whatever, and we have an agent that is making the adjustment from in-home sales to telesales, and all of a sudden they're battling this paralysis of picking up that phone and dialing, yet they have their family that they don't know when they're going to have this much time to spend with them again, and these distractions, or your brand new wife or whoever just sitting there not working or not really doing anything and just waiting and wanting to spend time with you. So that throws a curveball in all of this and makes it a little bit more difficult. But at the end of the day, we can have both. We don't have to choose one or the other. And I'm not saying I want you to choose making phone calls over your family. I would never say that. but you need to make sure that you are holding each other accountable, because this is for your family. You need to be able to set those times, whether, I think we talked about on our call yesterday, Austin, of, do an early walk in the morning before you start your day together, right, with maybe your significant other or your family, or and then schedule 3 or 4 hours of phone calls, and then schedule in your calendar, if you have to, that we're going to have lunch together at this time, and then another call session for another 3 or 4 hours, and then have dinner together, and then maybe watch a movie or play a family game in the night, or maybe on Wednesday of the week, we're going to go midday and spend 2 hours going to play tennis, or go and take our dogs to the park and letting them run around. But then when I come back, in my calendar, I have another 3 or 4 hour call session. So you can accomplish both, as long as you just schedule it out and you both are aware of that schedule, because you have to be on the same page. The worst thing that you can do at this time when your family is there is to go down to your home office, or up to your home office, or where it is in your home, and then have this paralysis for a couple hours and piddle paddle around, because you're not spending significant time with your family, and you're not making phone calls or helping any clients or talking with them either. You're in this no man's zone, and it's not helping anybody. And that's what we need to help agents get out of, and that's what we need to do whatever we can to help them see and understand that this is not the answer. This is not the comfort spot. This isn't where we want to be. We need to be doing one or the other, if not both. We need to be spending a significant time with our family while making a difference in our clients' lives at the same time. We have to get out of this little rut, this little paralysis rut that we get stuck in during this unique COVID-19.
And that brings up a thought I hadn't considered, Zach, of how, really, it's really easy to lie to ourselves, and say something like, man, we're going to look back. This is going to end. This whole time's going to end. And we're going to look back and we're going to say, man, I really spent quality time with my family, but man, I'm so far behind on my bills right now. The stimulus check helped, but it didn't come in like I thought it would, and it didn't come in until June. Now we're behind on this and this and this. But man, I really hung out with my kids and my wife. And, if we saw the film, we'd probably see, we were probably on our phone. We were probably distracted. It maybe wasn't as quality time as we thought it was. But did my kids, did my wife, did my husband, whoever it is, did they see me lead? Did they see me take action? Did I teach my kids how to be brave, doing something that I'm afraid of? Did I teach my kids how to be brave when the world was falling apart, or how to thrive, or how to build something? Or did they just see me avoid the things that I was uncomfortable with?
That's interesting you say that, Chris, because if you are spending all this, quote, quality time with your family, even though you're lying to yourself, and you're getting behind on those things, the one thing you don't want after, maybe rekindling some of those relationships or tighten up that family bond is the moment this is over, they're not going to see you for 3 or 4 weeks because you're busting double time trying to pay back your bills.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? Why can't you maintain your bills and do what needs to be done and spend quality time, so that when this is over, you have that work-life balance that you've always desired and wanted, and you just figured it out during COVID, and now you're just maintaining it as you're going forward, instead of throwing that completely out of whack because now you have to go 7 days a week trying to see clients to catch up on your bills.
With commission breath.
With commission breath. Right. Man, from a guy, from a host, kidding. Man, talking about commission breath, I'm impressed.
If you ask me, would I rather have a vacation with my family, or would I rather have a COVID lock-in with my family, I'd probably take the vacation.
100 times out of 100.
Yes. So build towards that.
Yeah, I mean, the solution. So if we had to give some practical solutions, you could continue to run. You can file for unemployment. and let the government take care of you from the things you've paid in for a period of time and live on 50% of your income and hope that you survive.
Wait, is that truly viable?
I'm being
That's a real
it's a viable option. Yeah, for independent contractors right now, you can file for unemployment. So that is a flight position. Now you might say that's a safety net, but and it is a safety net. I mean, that's what it's there for. And if you're in dire straits, like, be honest and be real with your family. Do that. Like, that's what it's there for, right? So don't sit there and say, I'm going to be brave. I'm going to go to my office. I can't make phone calls. The kids are running around. I don't have an office. I'm in a 2-room apartment. I don't know where to go. This is not working, but I'm not going to file for unemployment because I'm so proud, right? And so, like, you got to take action. You've got to, don't stay in the pause moment. It will kill you, right? So run toward or run away. One of those two things will save you. You might have to readjust running away after this is all over. But if you run in and you figure out some things, and I'm assuming that's why you're listening to this podcast today, because you're trying to figure out how to win, you have to take action. And action will help you overcome fear every time. And so you can process, but don't over-process to the point where you continue to do nothing. Get yourself in a position where you've got enough that you can start. And just like a baby learning how to walk again, you're going to fall, and you're going to pick yourself back up, and you're going to figure out how to get to the couch, and then you're going to figure out how to get to the kitchen, and eventually you won't be falling, and then eventually you'll be kind of waddling quickly, and then you'll get up to a place where you can actually run. Like, it's a process. So give yourself time, start to take action, and move through that process.
Well, it's like we say when clients give us objections, right? If clients are giving us objections, we do need to address it. We do. But we need to keep moving, right? So address it, then keep moving. And if we're giving ourselves objections, we need to address it. And then we need to keep moving.
Yeah, and the number one thing you said there, Rogers, we have to be honest with ourselves, but we also have to be honest with our family. Your family is your biggest and best accountability partner. If it's your coworkers, your friend, your family could be anybody, but you need to have that, and you need to have an open and honest conversation with them about where you're at in this. Because if your biggest, I wouldn't say Achilles heel, but your weakness is, your family being there, your daughters, your sons, whoever it is around that is saying, oh, come play with me. Like, you need to maybe have a conversation with them and let them know where you're at, what you're struggling with. This is what you need to do. Because I promise the moment you do that, they're going to be that person there saying, nope, you need to go make your phone calls. You can come up and we'll play this board game at 2:00 midday during your lunch schedule. But you need to do that. And you need to have that family support. You need to have them people that hold you accountable, because the biggest thing about fear is it makes you vulnerable to excuses. It makes it so darn easy for somebody to say, come on outside, Zach, let's throw some baseball, or whatever it is. It makes it so easy for you to convince yourself that that's okay.
Well, what's funny about that, though, is one of the actions to get out of fear is to be vulnerable, right? So it makes you vulnerable, but you also have to be vulnerable to get out. But you have to be vulnerable to others and not vulnerable to yourself. Exactly.
Vulnerable to the fear, probably. Yeah, be vulnerable to others and accountable to others. Transparency, I think, is important. If you're out there trying to figure out how to do this on your own, you need to connect with an organization that is willing to walk through this with you. You need to get connected to a group. One of the things that we just started doing was a couple of early morning, what do you guys call it?
Coffee and
Connection Zoom calls with a bunch of people who are going through the same thing, a bunch of agents that are going through the exact same thing. We've offered this coffee and connection time, and people are getting on and just talking about life because they need to be able to associate with other people who are going through the same thing. And you figure out how to get some wins, and you figure out where some obstacles and some challenges and some fears are and how to overcome that. And you make yourself accountable and transparent and vulnerable to that group. And it helps you take action, because you know what? As soon as you get off of that call, all those other people are starting to take action. So it's a positive peer pressure of putting yourself into a place of action, and that action will help you overcome fear.
I got a question for the host. and this is, you might get a little surprise if you get this right. But Austin, where does failure happen?
In isolation.
Oh, look at this man.
I'm picking it up, man.
Somebody's getting a 24-pack of Slim Jims delivered to his house.
Please don't. Please don't.
Lucky man.
So last night, Sarah and I were having this conversation around introverts versus extroverts. Prior to this, introverts got the bad rap. Oh, you all are no fun. You're always like wanting to stay inside. It was an extrovert's world. Well, now we have extroverts in an introvert's world, and now it's flipped. They're experiencing this hardship, right? Of like, wait, everyone else is like at home, but I want to be out, but I can't, and it's flipped. And so we have to be mindful that there are extroverts in this world, in this introvert world right now, that are struggling, right? And so we need to make sure we are creating opportunities to connect. And if you are that extrovert, it is very important for you, and you know this, you're feeling this, for you to connect with others. So where can you find those opportunities? Well, it's a community that Roger's talking about. It's an organization. It is the LIA podcast community, right? You are part of this community. There's agents all across America listening to this. You're part of this community.
And there should be some music playing behind you.
I'd say you can tell who
flag.
the extroverts are from two reasons. One, they're on our Coffee and Connection. Those are the extroverts. You know exactly who they are. The other thing is just go look outside your window. I mean, they take 4 or 5 walks a day. My neighborhood is crawling with extroverts because they just power walk all the time.
The introverts are joining the Zoom calls like reluctantly, and they never turn their cameras on or unmute.
Right.
But they're listening. I'm here, but it's a stretch.
Yeah.
Another part of connecting is feeling like a normal person.
Yeah.
That you're not crazy, and that you're not the only one going through something, or you're not the only one experiencing all the fears that are attached to this. And that is one of the underlying powers of community, realizing, hey man, we're all just normal people. We put our COVID masks on the same way over one ear and then the other before we go out in public. But we're all in the same boat together. But fear can make you think that you're different, that you're special in the wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like that, that client didn't like you, right?
Right.
Or that you take it personally. Like, I'm the only one experiencing this, and this is all about me and my issues. And
right.
But that's not true. Like, we're all getting hung up, Zach, after we tell them our name. Like, we are having these calls and experiencing these things that aren't related to us. They are happening all across. It's not just us. So let's share those experiences. Let's learn together. Let's have community. And as our dear governor always says, we will get through this. We will get through this together.
We all have our challenges, but if you can get in a community, and that full statement, Zach, when you said, where does fear happen? We always say success happens in community and failure happens in isolation. And so you have to find a community of like-minded people that you can get connected to get answers. Getting connected to a community will allow you to take action to move beyond that fear threshold, to start leaning in instead of leaning away.
I'll tell you what I love about our community the most is, none of us are here saying we're absolute experts on telesales. Because we're not. We're trying to figure it out just like you. But we've had a lot of experience in sales between us, and we've been very successful between us. And I know we all have that mindset that we will do anything we possibly can to help any agent out there to make that transition as smooth as possible. But, we have fun in our community. It's like-minded people that, it's not all serious. We're the best. Everybody else is terrible. It's nothing like that at all. It's a family, fun environment that is fun to be a part of, that we all collaborate together for one common goal of making a difference in our agents' lives and our clients' lives out there.
I love you guys too. I love you guys too.
Oh my gosh.
I felt the virtual hug.
I'm going to give you a Zoom hug.
That was a great hug, man. I felt it.
Well, that's a wrap for today's episode.
But before we go into closing notes and credits, I do want to pause and ask you, how are you doing? Like, really? How are you coping during this crazy time? Do you have someone you can talk to about what's going on, or what you're experiencing, or what you're struggling with? If so, make sure to commit to having this conversation with someone weekly. And if not, we're here for you. Truly. Send us a message on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Click the link in the show notes where you're listening right now, or visit liapodcast.org/EP15, and we're going to put a contact form on that page to connect with us directly. It's a crazy time, and we know that many are struggling, and your mental health is important. As we said earlier, failure happens in isolation, but we want you to know you are not alone, so don't hesitate to reach out. As always, thanks so much for listening to the Life Insurance Academy podcast. For Cliff Notes, resources, and that contact form, visit liapodcast.org/EP15. Again, that's liapodcast.org/EP15. If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening, rate us 5 stars, go listen to a few more episodes, and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Life Insure Acad. The Life Insurance Academy podcast is produced and mixed by me, Austin Lopes-Rivero. Our theme song is by Flashing Lights. We hope to connect with you soon. Until next episode, stay healthy and go be a difference maker.